Hello, everyone. Well, thanks very much for joining us and having a look at our Facebook page. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. I'm Patrick O'Connor, the Principal Lawyer of the Tasmanian Refugee Legal Service, and this is my colleague, Senior Lawyer Taya Jones. We thought we'd put some information together in relation to the changes to the law for the SHEV and temporary protection visa holders. We have lodged some information on our website in terms of fact sheets and also on Facebook, but we thought we'd just get together and have a quick chat about some of these key changes and communicate some of just high-level changes that have taken place in relation to these visa holders. Obviously, we were very, very excited about the news that came through yesterday about the changes. We've been working closely with the Department of Home Affairs on these changes and advising the government in relation to these changes, and we're very, very excited for all our clients that are in this position. It's a significant change and will make a big difference to all of your lives. And we wanted to just try to explain at a really high level some of the key things that have come out of that change.
So basically, if we start with at an overview of the changes from what has been announced, there's kind of three key groups that we want to capture in this message and get some information out to those key groups. So the first group Pat's going to run through now.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks, Taya. So Group 1 we would class as people that have already lodged their second SHEV. So that's called a subsequent SHEV. So that's, now many of our clients we've done a second SHEV application for last year. So if you're in a position where you've lodged that second SHEV, called a subsequent SHEV application, you don't need to do anything else. That application now will be deemed to be your permanent visa application. So if you're in that situation and you're a client of the service and we've lodged your second SHEV application, you do not need to do anything else. That application is now your permanent visa application, and more than likely you won't have to do anything else. These processes will still go through the standard security checks, but we don't anticipate much information being asked from the government. If the government asks for any information on those cases, they'll let us know and we can respond for you. But fundamentally, everyone who's lodged their second SHEV application do not need to do anything else. They can just wait for their permanent visa to come through.
And so if they're not a client of our service already, should they be getting in contact with us, or what would you suggest?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're not a client of the service and you live in Tasmania and you're a SHEV holder or a temporary protection visa holder, please call the service anytime. We're all here with six of the staff here and we'll be ready to answer your call. So if you're not a client of the service at the moment and you've lodged a subsequent SHEV application and you live in Tasmania, feel free to get in touch and we can give you some further advice.
Mm-hmm. And definitely for as far as getting in touch with our service, those people, if you're in that category, please do get in touch. The people that we're really encouraging to get in touch with our service, if you haven't, is anybody who currently holds a SHEV or a TPV and that is due for renewal, so they need to make a new application before March. So it's a really short time frame, but if you're in that category and you need to make that new application before March, we really encourage you to get in touch with our service because that new application needs to be made in that really short window and we can help you to get that in as quick as possible.
Yep, that's a great point, Taya. And probably what would class as the next group of people is people that currently hold a SHEV, but their SHEV's not expiring until after March this year. So, for example, your SHEV might be expiring in late this year or 2024 or even 2025. Now, that group of people will be able to lodge a permanent visa application online from late March. So the department is setting up their electronic systems for that group of people. So for that group of people, again, we'll be able to help you with your visa application. And again, we've got many clients in that situation who are a SHEV holder, whose visa is not expiring for some time. They will be able to apply before their visa expires in late March this year online, and we'll be able to help them with that application. And we anticipate that application to be a fairly straightforward application, and that will be then their permanent visa application.
So yeah, if you're already a client of the service and you're in that category, again, don't need to do anything. We just have to wait till that online portal becomes available. If you're not a client of the service and you're in that category, we would encourage you to reach out to our service if you would like assistance with the application. Because at least at this stage, we can start getting together your client file and begin the initial preparation, so that when we can lodge the application after March, we're just ready to go then. So please get in touch.
Yep, that's great. Thanks, Dave. Now, people in other categories, for example, if you've lodged an application for protection and you've lodged a temporary protection visa application, but you haven't had an interview yet, those people will continue to go through that same process. But when it gets to the point where the department will make a decision on your visa, instead of it being a temporary visa, it's going to be a permanent visa. So otherwise, the process will stay the same. So you're just waiting for an interview. But when it gets to the point that the department are going to make a decision, instead of granting you a temporary visa, if you're successful, you'll be granted a permanent visa. So now people in other situations might be, for example, your application has been refused and for a temporary visa and you're waiting at the tribunal. Again, you'll just have to wait through the same process at the tribunal, but if you are successful and the department are going to process the visa, it'll be a permanent visa now. And that applies also to people who are going through judicial review. So if you're at the federal court, you still have to go through just the same process you're going through. But if you're successful at that stage, and also at the ministerial intervention stage, so if you're waiting for a decision from the minister, you still have to just wait for that decision. If that decision is successful and your case gets sent back to the department, instead of processing a temporary visa, a permanent visa will be processed.
Great.
So we also wanted to touch on services. So if you're granted a permanent visa, which is called a res visa, so it's a resolution of your status, you will have obviously eligibility to the services that any permanent resident of Australia will have. So that includes things like Centrelink, that includes things like HEX, and that includes things like the NDIS. You'll have access to those services as soon as you're granted your permanent visa.
And what about options for people once they've been granted their permanent visa, if they, say, have family members still overseas that they'd like to bring to Australia?
Yeah, that's a great question. So once you're granted your permanent visa, you will have eligibility to apply for family stream visas. So that's, for example, partner visas. You'll then be eligible to lodge partner visa. You'll be eligible to lodge a child visa. You'll be eligible to lodge a parent visa because you'll be a permanent resident of Australia. So you have to wait, obviously, firstly, until you're granted your permanent visa, but you will have eligibility through what's called the family stream process to lodge those visas as well.
Great.
Yeah, excellent. I wanted to also touch on how long we think the process will take. So the department have said basically that their goal is to grant the majority of these visas before the end of this calendar year. So, some will come through quicker than that. Some will come through later in the year. But the department, in all discussions we've had, have made the commitment that they are aiming to grant all these visas before the end of the year. So we anticipate this process will take sort of 6 to 9 months until everyone's been granted the visa. We also want to touch on citizenship. Did you want to have a quick chat about that?
So citizenship, once you have been granted the permanent visa, you're from that date a permanent resident. And so once you meet the general citizenship requirements, you would be eligible to apply for Australian citizenship. So usually what that means is that you've been in Australia for 4 years. And that you've held your permanent residency status for 1 year. So generally, once you've become that permanent resident, for a lot of people in this situation, it will just be waiting for 1 year and then they can make the application for citizenship.
Excellent. Thanks, Taya. That probably covers some of the high-level information. As Taya talked about at the start, please feel free to call the service. We're definitely here to help you through the process. We're obviously a free legal service. We've put forward some more fact sheets on our website and also on Facebook with some further information. Please feel free to get in touch, and we hope that helps with some of the general information about this process. And Thanks for joining us.
Our phone number is 61699473. That's our office number. Do get in touch and leave a message if you can't get through. We are taking a lot of calls at the moment as well, so please understand if we don't answer immediately, but please do get in touch. And yeah, thanks for watching.
Thanks, everyone.